Red Feather presents From the Archives. Chapter 22, Gelatinization.
Okay, this is... It's sticky. Why is it so... Hold on. Okay, that's a little better. What is this? I feel like I'm gonna throw up. Anyways, this is a statement that Mombo took from somebody who walked in during that week while I was, busy. According to him, he tried to just have the statement giver write it down, but the paper got wet. He wasn't terribly clear. Anyways, he wound up recording it instead, so I'm just listening back to make sure everything's in order and add my own notes before I file it away.
Statement of I, Jevin, regarding a cookbook. Statement recorded direct from subject today, 23rd of June, 2022.
Sorry about your chair, by the way. I think this one's probably gonna be a goner.
Don't worry about it, mate. So, like I said, I'm not the head archivist. He's the one who would normally take these sort of statements, but he's been out of work for the past few days, so I am not entirely sure how to do this. He didn't leave any notes, which is just like him, frankly, so sorry in advance. This is probably going to be very disorganized.
Hey, it's fine. I didn't come to the Ghostbusters expecting peak professionalism.
You know, that's fair enough. I guess just start from the beginning.
Well, I guess it all started when I accidentally threw a frisbee over my next-door neighbor's fence.
And what happened next?
Well, she was really weird about it, mostly. I mean, it was just a frisbee. It didn't even break anything. But she stormed over so mad you'd think I'd killed her cat or something, and complained at me for like 10 full minutes about keeping my stuff out of her yard. I'm a really live and let live sort of guy, so I was just ready to apologize and forget about it. But she just kept going. We hadn't really talked before. She just moved into the neighborhood like a year ago, so we just got off to a really bad start. And it was all downhill from there.
How so?
The usual stuff when you have a neighbor you hate. On Halloween, I might have encouraged some teenagers to egg her house, and I think after that she started taking my newspapers. That sort of thing. And man, she has a death glare and a half. Fortunately, I don't have any pets. I feel like if I had, they would have gone mysteriously missing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I will say, so far this isn't explaining how exactly,
I'm getting there. You gotta let me provide the context. So what happened is, I already sort of hated her, and she definitely hated me back, and we were both constantly sort of snipping at each other whenever we crossed paths. And she had this tree, right, in her backyard, and some of the branches went over the fence into my yard. And look, she'd got all mad at me for accidentally tossing a frisbee into her yard. It felt like I could bother her back about her stupid tree. I made a few passive-aggressive comments about it, and she sort of brushed me off. She has such bad vibes, honestly. Like, she's always looking over her shoulder for something. Honestly, you know what? I'm not even surprised that this happened. The way she acted, I was half expecting her to break into my house and smother me in my sleep.
So, what happened with the tree, exactly? I'm assuming something did happen?
Oh, right. She didn't do anything about her tree, so I called the neighborhood association on her. And dude, she was so spitting mad about that. I hung out in my front yard with a lemonade when they came over so I could watch her argue with them from the front door. Which, in hindsight, was probably not the best move, because it totally gave away that I was the one who had called them. But, I don't regret it. And, okay, so I can't actually prove it was her fault, but I'm absolutely sure it was. Because like 2 days later, I found a cookbook tucked in with my mail. And like I said, I know she was going through my mail. And it wasn't one of those free sample recipe things from the grocery store or whatever. That would be pretty normal to get in the mail, but that's not what this was. It was an actual book. It wasn't fancy, it had a plastic cover and like notebook-type binding, but definitely a proper cookbook. And like, weirdly old, too. There wasn't a date on it, but it was obviously pretty worn out, and it was full of recipes from the 50s or something. It was all themed after those weird, gross Jell-O molds. You know, the ones with, like, fish and vegetables in them.
Did this book have a stamp inside the cover, like a lending library book, by any chance?
No, it did actually, yeah. From the library of some guy? I don't remember.
Yep, I figured that might be the case. I'm guessing you opened it.
Yeah. I was mostly just a little weirded out by it, but I flipped through it a bit. I figured it was just a weird prank of some sort. I mean, she couldn't have actually expected me to try and make any of that stuff. It all looked disgusting. But who knows what goes on inside her head. But as I did, I noticed I was starting to, leave fingerprints on the pages. But my hands weren't dirty, was the thing. They didn't have anything on them, but they still felt all gross and sticky. My fingers kept sticking together and sticking to the pages. When I looked at them, it looked like they had some sort of gluey gunk on them. Like...
Yep, I understand. You don't need to demonstrate. I promise. Totally get it.
Gross, right? So obviously I was weirded out, right? And I went to wash my hands, but that just made whatever it was way worse. Like, some of it went down the drain, but it didn't clean my hands off. I just, like, lost feeling. And then I saw the bone, and I realized I needed to stop putting them under the water right away. When I got up the nerve to look at my hands again, they just looked like globs. They didn't hurt. I could still feel them, or what was left of them, since, like, a non-zero amount of me had just gone down the kitchen sink. But they didn't look that much like hands anymore, obviously. I tossed out the book right away. Even used kitchen tongs to do it so I wouldn't have to touch it again, but, yeah, damage done.
Right. How about the rest of her? I can see you're, looking slightly, melty, generally.
Yeah, it's worst on my hands, and that's where I noticed first, but all my skin is sort of, goop. Most of the stuff underneath, too, from what I can tell. Caught my arm on a chain-link fence the other day, and it just sort of schlorped right through. And, like, you know how hot it was last week? I went outside once and barely made it to the end of the block before I realized I was dripping skin and muscle onto the pavement. I tried going to a doctor who specializes in skin conditions, but I could tell she was as freaked out as I was. If there's any cure, it was probably in that stupid cookbook, but you couldn't pay me $1 million to even touch that thing again.
Right, I do not blame you. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Nah, that's basically it. Got in a fight with my neighbor, she put a weird cookbook in my mail, and then I started melting. I don't really know what else you guys want to know. Oh, I have been sticking handfuls of slime in her mailbox now, since this is all her fault, and also she still hasn't even trimmed back her stupid tree.
Right. Speaking of your neighbor, can I get her name? We do follow-up research on all these, so...
Yeah, her name is Cleo. Don't know her last name. I think it starts with a Z.
She wouldn't be an artist by any chance, would she?
Yeah, actually. Have you met her? She's insane, right?
I've heard of her, and I'm not going to argue that point. Right, thank you for the interview. We might call you for some more questions later, once our head archivist is back. Good luck with your, skin condition? Oh, statement ends.
I cannot believe, during the 1 week I was gone, someone came in with a statement like this, and Mumbo completely bungled the interview. And it was about Cleo, and another Hills book. Oh, I wish I'd have been there. I would have gotten such a good story. Oh. I wonder if he would come back for another interview if I called him. It's not the end of the world. It's not that bad. Mumbo did fine. I just would have done better, is all. And I do need to tell him to stop only taking down a first initial when he records these. He did it with that one tag statement too. I guess it does answer the question of what the residue on the tape here is. At least it still plays alright. I considered calling Cleo up to ask her about this incident, since I do still have her number, but I figured that might have been pushing it a little. I don't think I need any more feathers. At least they don't itch anymore. And I did promise Pearl I would leave well enough alone anyways. For now. Oh, I'm so upset I missed this one. I love taking the life statements. They're like candy. See, this is why I can't take time off.
From the Archives is a fanfic series written by Johnny 16th Days and Zephaniah Grains, inspired by the Magnus Archives and by Hermitcraft and other Minecraft series. This chapter was performed by Noctude as Jevin, Sumi as Mumbo, and Tizzy as Grian. Editing for this episode was done by Campfire and Noctude. Music was composed by Noctude.